Click, click, boom. What's going on, faithfuls? The Nothing But Niners crew is back, and we are here to have some fun today, guys. The pressure is on, and that's what we're going to talk about. I have to go through the formalities before we get down to the show. So I want to thank everybody for taking their time and subscribing to this channel here on YouTube. If this is your first time here, thank you also for joining and visiting. Hope you like what you see, and if you do, give us a thumbs up, okay? Also tell somebody else about the show because we could always use the community spreading the word about Nothing But Niners. Make sure you check out the website. It is www.nothingbutniners.com. And there you're going to see a bunch of articles written by a bunch of great people. You're going to see our different social media handles there as well. We have Twitter and Snapchat, and those handles are nothing but the number 9 ERS. All right, you can give us a follow over there on both of those, Twitter and Snapchat. If you guys want to hit us up on Facebook, if you're more of a Facebook person, or maybe Instagram, those handles are nothing but Niners. It's spelled all the way out. Okay. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, even some feedback for the show, we get some really good long emails of people giving us a lot of good information. It is NB, the number 9 ERS, so NB Niners at nothingbutniners.com, spelled all the way out. I am 49ers Mike _NF on Twitter. All right. Right now, for the moment, my man Jay is in here. Jay Novel, Novel. You guys can give him a follow on Twitter as well. Jay, what's going on, baby? How you doing over there?
Wonderful, man. I'm not dealing with the storm like you got going on where you're at. I'm good.
Yeah, man. So that's a good thing. Let me remind everybody really quick. Just in case this show cuts off abruptly, guys, I'm in the middle of a crazy thunderstorm over here. You'll probably hear it cracking a couple of times. And if the power goes out, it will disconnect the show. So I'm going to apologize in advance. It's not our intentions, but hopefully we survive this one here. So Jay, man, let me start with you because I know you got some stuff going on also. This is a very, very, very important season for the 49ers. This is the third year of Shanahan and Lynch's deal. We're right here in the middle of it. Usually under a 5-year deal, this is when it's do or die for these guys. Maybe they got themselves a little bit more time because it's a 6-year deal. I think that Jed and the higher ups kind of knew that this was going to be a long process. But man, I can't help but feel like there's a lot of pressure, down from, the head coach, the GM, maybe even the owners, the vice presidents and guys. I mean, what about the people who run the stadium? I think there's a lot of pressure on a bunch of different guys. I didn't even mention anybody on the roster. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We want to try to find out who do we think the pressure is really on? I mean, there's a pressure on everybody, of course, but there's some people who have got to be sweating thinking, man, if I don't do it this year, I might not be back next year. So let's start with that. First, give everybody a little bit of background about yourself, and then you can jump right into the subject, okay?
My government's Jesse Booker. I'm checking in from Wisconsin, Racine, Wisconsin, raised here, born in Florida. Been a 49er fan since the early 80s, and been a fan of the show, been a fan of you guys and everything you're doing, so I appreciate you having me on. I like to stir the pot a little bit. I like to sometimes, go against the grain, and I was the off-season Kool-Aid sipper for so many years, man, and there's just too much bad happening since Dad left, man. Since Dad left for Michigan, I've been a sad 49er fan. So I'm not in the sipping the Kool-Aid anymore, man. I'm more, you got to show me now, show and prove.
You are absolutely right, man. Stirring the pot a little bit, man. You are a prime instigator. Let me tell you, man. I appreciate your support, though. When this guy goes back and he watches the videos, he's giving us like a live feed reactions to everything, man. I truly enjoy it and appreciate it, man. But yeah, so Harbaugh's been gone. Things haven't been going well. They weren't going well before then, and people have criticized the hiring, the firings. So where do you think it starts, man? Who do you think? Not so much just who the most pressure is on, but give me someone or something that you think the pressure is on this year going into it. Let's talk about it a little bit.
So I think there's two different types of pressures. There's the pressure from the organization on the individual for the team to be successful. And then there's the individual pressure on the player for him to have a successful career, right? So a lot of guys are getting paid a lot of money. And so when that money comes, that pressure comes to perform, right? So maybe the team doesn't have, or maybe he doesn't have responsibility to the team as far as getting the wins or the victories, but individually as a man who has to provide for his family, if he got X amount to show up and be in San Francisco and he doesn't perform up to the standards that the team sets for him in regards to that contract, he could be out of the league. So you might have got paid X amount right now. So if you're a guy making veteran minimum, there's not as much pressure. But if you're a guy like Jerick McKinnon making top dollar for a running back coming off an injury, In my opinion, the 49ers aren't relying on Jerick McKinnon to win football games this year. San Francisco doesn't need McKinnon to rush for 1,000 to be successful, but McKinnon needs to rush for 1,000 for McKinnon to continue to get paid.
That internal pressure is real, man. You're absolutely right. You know what I mean? And that's something else that, I'm going to flip it and give you someone else, because I agree with you there. The 49ers have put themselves in a position, specifically at the running back position, where if a guy or two goes down, hey, this ship can keep going.
For
These
sure.
guys know the system, even down to a guy like Jeff Wilson, who is likely to be a practice squad guy this year. He can come in here and step in if need be. He had the most broken tackles per carry than any running back on the team. That's my guy. Come on, man. So you're absolutely right. It's not pressure on the position itself. It's pressure internally. And I think the same has to go for guys. There's two guys in particular this comes to mind for, Jimmy Ward and Eric Armstead. Their futures in the league are depending on this year. Eric Armstead played relatively well last year, his first healthy season. I'm hoping he can have another one. I'm knocking on wood every chance I get, man. I'm hoping he can have another one. But this is it. The contracts are up. You know what I mean? There's no more options or anything like that. This is a 1-year deal for him. Same thing for Jimmy Ward. And we already know about the broken collarbone. These guys have to say, look, I'm talented. There's a reason I'm here. I got to show it so I can continue my career in this league. So, sorry. Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, so, these guys have a lot of pressure on them to come in here and show and prove. My man Tony jumped in here too, guys. If you guys want, give him a follow on Twitter. He is NJ9erFan499. What's up, Tony, man? Tell us about some pressure, bro. What's going on with you?
What's up, Mike? What's going on? By the way, is that thunder in the background?
Yeah, man. I told everybody I had to give a little disclaimer, man. I might lose some power over here because we are in the middle of a crazy storm right now.
Yeah, it's getting dark by me right now. All right, so what are we talking about?
We're talking about pressure, man. So we're going through the team right now. We just want to find out who do you think are some people that have some pressure on them? Give us one by one, or things like that. Jay already said that the internal pressure, not so much from the team aspect, but internally himself, was Jerick McKinnon. He got that big deal. He came in, got injured right away. He's got to look like 1,000-yard guy in order to keep a value up on this team. We already know what will happen with if he goes down. Here comes Breida. We know what happens if Breida goes down. Here comes Mostert. Here comes, Jeff Wilson. We got a backup plan for the backup plan. He's got to show his value. So he's got to be feeling that pressure himself. When he goes home at night, he's got to be talking to, whoever his significant other is, or even his dog. I don't know what he's got going on, but he's got to be saying, I got to perform, And I said the same thing probably applies for guys like Jimmy Ward and Eric Armstead. These guys are on their last year of their deals. These are former first-round picks. They haven't lived up to where they were drafted. Not always about the talent, but it's about the availability. These guys got to show and prove. So we're going to throw it to you now. Who do you think is feeling a little bit of pressure right now?
Well, you said one of my guys. That's Eric Armstead. Made a key point. It is a contract year. If he does remain in San Francisco, he's going to have to it's not – he's going to have to play good this year. He's going to have to produce some sack totals, increase his sack totals. Not saying he didn't play well last year. He played the run very well. I just think the team's looking at him maybe to become more productive as a pass rusher. There's a couple guys. Injuries. You want to talk about injuries? Jaquasi Tart. He got an extension. Can't stay on the field. It's not a knock against him. Listen, it's a physical sport. He's throwing his body around. He's not afraid of contact. But your best availability is being available. I mean, he's got, I think, one more year left on his extension. The team will make a decision. They showed, Marcel Harris when he went down as a safety. They added an undrafted free agent from Arizona, Flowers. I forgot his damn name, but he's a hitter. They're looking at possibly Colbert because they're playing interchangeable safety in a split backfield. Either one of them could take a strong spot. Now, another guy that I'm probably going to take heat for saying this, but I think Mr. Ford has a lot of pressure on him. coming over, got a big fat deal. The team acquired him from KC for a second rounder. I think he's going to produce, but still, that's a lot of pressure, man. You're coming over to help our situation to make a very, very big weakness of that defense for years to become a strong point. And with the addition of Bosa, I think it's going to work. I'm not saying he's going to flop, but still, he's got to feel a little pressure. And another guy, I think John Lynch, as far as and his scouting stats, Martin Mayhew and Adam Peters. 2 years ago, they went over in that first round. Number 3, Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster. Well, I think it was 30 or 29. They took 30. They took. He rebounded a little bit last year, and hopefully, he's trajecting upwards instead of downwards. He continued to rise with his selection. Those are just a couple things I was just thinking about as soon as you said what the topic was for tonight.
So let me ask you guys this, right? Camp is what? We're 4 days away from camp starting, and I don't want to get into camp in particular, but there's a rookie who was drafted in the first round, and he hasn't signed his contract yet. And I know this applies also to our second round pick and Deebo Samuel, but Nick Bosa is coming in here, and from the moment that he was on the team's radar, it was, the injuries. Oh, there's going to be a holdout because that's what his family does, da-da-da-da-da, right? And sure enough, those 2 biggest worries happened, boom, immediately. The injury happened, and we're already talking about a holdout. He hasn't officially held out of anything. He did show up for the rookie stuff. Now it's time for the mandatory things, and here we are in limbo. We don't know what's going to happen here. Is there pressure? I'm going to ask this to both of you guys. We'll start with Jay, and then we'll move it to Tony. Is there pressure on Nick Bosa, not just to show up, but is there pressure on him to even perform? Do you think that there's a performance thing? If he comes in here and has a 4-sack year, are we satisfied with him? What kind of pressure is Nick Bosa under?
I think they alleviated a lot of the pressure with the arrival of D Ford. I think they did themselves a favor. They protected themselves against the potential injuries, against the holdout. I think it was a smart move on John Lynch's part. I think Buckner is going to wreck shop regardless. The pressure in regards to creating pressure from the D-line falls on the D-line coach and the DC. Those boys are ball players, man. Like, you get Solly and Eric rotating in and not having to be 3-4 down D linemen. You get that rotation running, and you get these fresh legs. You got Ronald Blair coming off the bench. I don't think Bosa is going to be top 3 in sacks on the team if he plays all 16 games. I just don't see it happening. I don't think, unfortunately, where he was picked, there's pressure on him to perform as far as stats go the way, how did this second round pass rusher outperform your top 10 pick? But, I mean, regardless, I don't think the 49ers are going to need Nick Bosa to get 10 sacks to win football games. He just has to contribute and push the pocket. The problem with that is when you get a guy like a Solomon Thomas who doesn't rack up sacks, he runs his ass off. He's out there hustling. He's making tackles in the run game. It's not sexy. When you pick a guy in the top 10, top 5 to get the quarterback and he doesn't get the quarterback, it feels like a miss regardless. I don't see the kid playing 16 games. I don't see him signing his contract before the first preseason game. I think it's going to be a disaster, honestly.
Strong words, man. I like it, man. Tony, did you agree with that? You think that we're we're in for it with this guy, man? This is the family way, we had you think about with his brother Joey. Joey held out, and he missed a couple of preseason games, and then all of a sudden he was there, and he came in right away, made an impact, but then he got injured, and then he got back onto it, and he's looked at right now as one of the better pass rushers in the league. But what do you think, man? You think the pressure's on him?
I think there's some. I just think that with the front four that we have, going into this season between D Ford, you added Bosa, we got Buckner, and whoever takes that tack, or if they play the wide 9, the opposite tackle of Buckner, that means Bosa and Ford are pretty much one up face of chip. I think he will be productive. I don't think he's going to lead the team in sacks by all means. I agree with Jay with that. But you got to realize one thing: all these players that are all these drafts signed, I think 3 of them, or maybe 4 of them, are all with CAA under Tom Condon. Now, the big issue is, if you want to know my answers on Parag, to see if he can get a deal without making Bosa lose time. As far as the injury with Bosa, OTAs or mini camps, rookie camps, whatever you want to call them, like on KMBR and all that stuff, if he had to play, he was going to play. I mean, he would have missed maybe a week or 2, they said, but I understand what Jay's saying about not completing a full 16-game season, working against him because of his college concerns as far as that. But I think a deal will get done. I'm kind of hoping a deal will get done because and Mike spoke about this earlier, I really want to see that front four under Kasarik. I really do.
All right. Now my man Scott has popped in here, guys. Scott Geelan. Did I say it right this time? Yeah. You guys give him a follow on Twitter also. It is Scott, SCOTT _Geelan, GEELAN. You took the 0 out, right? It's actually an O this time? All right, my man. So, Scott, man, we're talking about pressure. And as you can hear, we're talking about Bosa. We already said Lynch. We said Armstead. We said McKinnon. We even said your guy Tart. He's got to show up. Availability has been a question. What are your thoughts, man? Who do you think is feeling some pressure this year?
I like the guys you said. I think McKinnon should definitely be feeling some heat. I think you're probably looking at maybe like a Ronald Blair. I know he's a popular man in Nothing But Niners group, but Ronald Blair probably feeling a little bit of pressure. He's after we saw Cassius Marshall leave, but we've got D Ford, Nick Bosa in the building. That's 2 kind of high quality edge rushers, and then there's a big kind of large group of guys who can play kind of flex between the edge and the defensive interior. And it'll be interesting to see how many of those guys the team take. We're looking at guys like Julian Taylor, Contavious Street, Solomon Thomas, Eric Armstead. How kind of does Ronald Blair fit into that? Do they think he's too much of just a pure edge rusher at this point, or do they think which potentially helps him in that? Do they think they want to keep him as a pure edge rusher, which given those guys are likely to reduce inside against the pass, or do they actually go, okay, he's actually limited in terms of his versatility, so we'd rather have one of those guys like Street and Taylor, who we know can play big end, can rush from outside if push comes to shove, but can also play 3 tech or 1 tech. That's going to be an interesting thing to see, I think, in terms of guys who are feeling under pressure. You've got Ronald Blair in that conversation, and then you've also got, I think, Sheldon Day in that conversation, and then DJ Jones as well, another one of those guys. All 3 of them, Blair, Day, Jones, who you'd argue are probably less versatile and therefore could be feeling the pinch when some of these more versatile guys can get in and potentially be impactful as a pass rusher and a run stopper out of a variety of positions on the defensive line, which could, of course, then also be helped by, who you said, Kotzarek and this new wide 9 style penetration front, where you're looking for even your nose tackle to basically be causing carnage by getting beyond the center, beyond the guard who he's lined over the inside shoulder of. Do you want Sheldon Day and DJ Jones on the roster? Do you want Ronald Blair, who's just a rotational edge rusher? Or do you want to say, actually, we want Contavious Street, Julian Taylor, Solomon Torres, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, etc., who are you can literally line up anywhere along that front line, and they're just going to go after the quarterback or get after the running back straight off the snap.
That's very, very interesting. Versatility has always been something that Shanahan and this regime have been praising highly since they got here. There's a reason that they have certain guys here. I never thought about Blair feeling any kind of pressure, and then I just looked it up after you said it. This is a contract year for him. This is a very, very important year for him. And, he was second on the team in sacks. I think he tied with Cassius Marsh with 5.5 each. So he was tied for second. And that's with him just coming in as a rotational guy. I often wonder what it feels like for a guy like Blair to see guys come in and get drafted at the same position he's playing in, be brought in free agency. And it's like, look, if you guys look at the percentages of my snaps and my production, I'm pretty damn good. Why aren't you giving me a bigger chance, a bigger shot? So maybe he is feeling some kind of pressure. Go ahead, Jake. Go ahead, pop in, man.
He's an anomaly, man. He's a 5th round pass rusher. Those don't work out, and that's my gutter guy. So I'll be right back.
All right, we'll pick up where you left off. All right, Jay's got to go for a second, guys. He's going to go on mute and everything. So we'll come back to him. But it's got to be tough. I mean, Julian Taylor, he played a couple of games, but we didn't really get to see much of him in real games. He came in real games, but it wasn't like wow, there it is. We saw the dominance in the preseason games, 3 and 4, but we didn't really get to see it on the field when he was out there. I think he was only out there for a game or two, but it was just another body out there. So I want to change it up a little bit. We're talking about a lot about players, right? And I'm not even going to go to coaching. I'm going to go to, I don't know, maybe guys like whoever's in charge of getting butts in seats, whether that's advertising, whether that's fan engagement people, you know what I mean, the media guys, whoever it is that's in charge of making people want to actually go to the stadium. Everyone's been talking about how Levi Stadium is cursed. It's the candlestick curse or whatever they want to call it. It's just not the same. It doesn't have the same vibe and things like that. I think this is a big year for those guys also. Now, the punishments might not be the same as, a player who doesn't perform well, where they're getting cut or released or traded or whatever. But I think there's going to be some pressure. I think this year they have to make the at-home game experience a lot better. I could be wrong, but what do you guys think about that? I mean, is that something that you guys think about also? Tony, you were talking about one of the games. I forget what game it was, but we were talking either this weekend or maybe even, the end of last week about a game you were watching. You said, yeah, there was a lot of red, but Mike, it was the color of the seats. It wasn't a packed house. What do you think about that? Do you think that those guys, the front office people, do you think that they're feeling any kind of pressure?
I mean, listen, it sucks when, like, I've been to a game and it was versus the Cardinals, and well, the stadium was empty. I'll be real with you. And you're talking about adding all these pieces. You're talking about all these things. They do their giveaways, their bobbleheads, all that. That's great. But the point is, these people need to stay in the stands for all 4 quarters. I understand, everyone wants to go to the bathroom, go get a beer, go get food. It's great. But if you want this team, like just think about it. How would you feel if you're on the field and you look up and the freaking stadium, you always see red seats. No one's loud enough people that are there to get that stadium loud. Now you look at like Kansas City. No one leaves the seats. Only they leave the seats at halftime. And that place is so damn loud. I understand the aerodynamics of the stadium, the way it was constructed or configured, helps it, like with the same thing with Seattle. But if you fill those stands, and I know what it's going to take this team to turn around and show that they're winning. Let's all be real. Once that happens, I think, they got to round off a couple big wins, and then the players will start staying in what the hell was that? The players will start staying in the stands, and that's when you get the crowd involved in the game. Now you get the advantage on defense, where the offense can't hear their audibles. It's all tied in together. Winning, keeping the butts in the stands. I think there is pressure on whoever's in charge of fan interaction or whatever, all that stuff, to keep people there. But it's not all on them. It's on this team. They need to perform. They need to win, and that they need to make a reason for those people to stay in those seats. Listen, it's hot in that stadium. We all been there. It's hot, but
yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out, man. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the stadium. I'm looking forward to going back a couple of times this year also. And I don't have many complaints, I mean, I went to a Cowboys game and we got demolished that game. Fan morale was down, but it was already down because, we were on our backup quarterback at the time and things like that. So we're hoping for things to improve a little bit this year. Scott, I'm going to throw it to you, man. Do you think there's anybody, it doesn't have to be about the stadium guys and getting butts in seats, but you think there's anybody in the front office that's feeling a little bit of heat, some pressure on them this year? Like if I don't get it done this year, maybe they're coming for me. It could be from the GM, it could be head coach, it could be defensive coordinator. I mean, what do you think about that?
Two people. I think defensive coordinator, obviously, he's been criticised. I think he's potentially a little bit harshly, I think, given the front office didn't give him a pass rusher, essentially. They inherited DeForest Buckner, and they haven't had anyone else who's been able to rush the passer. So he's had to kind of go away from his scheme, which is predicated on 4-man rush, 7 men in coverage, to kind of rush more creatively, sometimes by like simulated pressure by rushing 4 players, but using a nickel corner or a safety or a linebacker. Otherwise, he's been sending like 5 or 6 people. He hasn't had great cornerbacks. Akilla Witherspoon wasn't brilliant last season. He was better than people thought he was, but he wasn't brilliant. He was not someone who you could trust to leave on an island. Even Sherman, I mean, he's not an island cornerback anymore. Has he ever really been a true island cornerback? People would ask you, like, how good was he, like, in pure man-to-man coverage against shifty receivers? Was he ever Darrelle Revis, for example? It's clearly a high bar. Was he ever that guy? So they've just never really had the pieces which has made his defense great. But this year he kind of does. That's the big difference here. Is this year, not only does he have Buckner, he's got D Ford, he's got Nick Bosa. Solomon Thomas says he's ready to go. Which is, you know, which you've got to hope for. Last year was clearly a tough year. Is he ready to go? He's got a free safety who he likes in Jimmy Ward. They wanted him back. That must have come from the coaching staff. We like Jimmy Ward. We'd like him back as our free safety, so they've got him. Tavarius Moore, they've moved from corner to free safety. That's another thing. Presumably, that's the coaching staff after the front office had parameters. This is what we like at cornerback, so they drafted him to be a cornerback, and the coaching staff have said, no, we want him at safety. They've got him. They've got the key positions. Arguably, the only position where there's a slight question mark now is linebacker. And cornerback. Linebacker and cornerback. Does he have those positions? Linebacker is important, but it might be that actually he's got, how many safety does he have? How willing are the coaching staff to continue to adapt? He's got Harris, Tart, Moore, Colbert. If you don't have 2 good linebackers, play 1 linebacker and play 3 safeties instead of 2 and 2. Can they adapt to that? If we see the linebackers getting shredded, like they have done at times in previous seasons, we see our cornerbacks being shredded. How are they going to adapt? Because we know they've got the pieces up front to help that out. And the reality is, if those positions are getting shredded, you're going to have to start looking at the coaching staff and asking, what are you doing wrong, rather than being sympathetic to them and saying, what haven't you done? And then the other guy, of course, is John Lynch, for exactly the same reasons. Is he has finally, it seems, given his coaches the pieces that they need in year 3. It's taken a while, which is understandable. There was a lot of work to do. But if these guys don't work out, then pressure's going to be on Lynch. And I think you might start seeing like an Adam Peters or someone given a chance. But we'll see.
Yeah, you know, you pointed up you brought up a good point. Sorry, my dog keeps walking here. I don't want to knock any of the wires over. You know, John Lynch, not John Lynch. Robert Saleh has been one of these guys that, I mean, if you truly pay attention to the defense, he makes a lot of really good adjustments throughout the season and on the fly. I think that he has been kind of unfairly judged. I think he's truly done the best he could do with what he's been given. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to feel any pressure this season. You've got your edge rusher. They doubled down and got you another one. You know, they kept Ronald Blair. You know, so there are things that they're looking at. Like, look, you've got all the pressure machines that you need right there in the forefront. I said forefront. I'm talking about the first 4 linemen. That's funny. But yeah, so like they've given it to him, and that means that he probably is feeling a little bit of pressure. I want to give it to Anthony. I saw him pop in. Mr. Perry is in the building. What's going on over there, big guy? And how you feeling, man? Who do you think is feeling some pressure so far, man? We've listed Lynch, we've listed Armstead, we've listed McKinnon, we've listed Tart. We're talking about Robert Saleh. We're talking about the guys who do media and advertising, getting butts in seats. We're all over the place, man. I mean, but who do you think is feeling some pressure this year? This is a big year for this regime, man. The 3rd year, and proof that they've already feeling the pressure. They're making changes to the coaching staff. They've gotten rid of guys, the defensive line coaches, and brought in Kosurik. You know, they got rid of the DB coach in Hafley and brought in Woods. They know that this is a good, important year for them. So who else do you think is feeling some pressure? Anthony, I can't hear you, buddy. Mic check. 1 2 1 2.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay. So what's going on, guys? To jump in on this conversation, because I was trying to think of something, I'm going to say Rich Hightower. I'm going to go special teams. And I'm going to say that because the defensive side of the ball in special teams has been fantastic. We all know that. But I want to see some turnaround on the offensive side of special teams. We have all these guys who can return, and what's gotten done so far on the offensive side of special teams, you know? I mean, when the opportunity comes, I feel like the most hasn't really been made out of it. I mean, all of last season, we had, one total return touchdown? Was that it? I think just one. And that was Richie James?
Yeah,
And,
Richie James against Seattle.
Yeah, that was it. And I want to see some progress, and I want to see Dante Pettis out there actually returning, because that's who he is. I think they might have just been trying to baby him because maybe they knew that he could be injury prone, that he is a rookie and that he still needs to get acclimated. So I'll give him that. But I really want to see him take the next step on special teams and actually be out there and be a contributor. Because we don't know if Richie James is going to make it. Honestly, we don't know if Trent Taylor is going to make it. Goodwin's probably not really going to return. So that leaves it to Dante Pettis. And I want to see Hightower coach up the offensive side of special teams. We got Gold back. The kicking's fine. I'm sure Wisnowski will be fine too. But I just felt like last season there were so many missed opportunities when it came to returning, or there's just certain things that I felt like could have gone so much better. And I think special teams is one of the underrated things in football these days that not a lot of people talk about enough. I mean, look how much coverage Robbie Gould alone got as it is, and he's just a kicker. And you see how many people really value him. So imagine, the return guys getting some value. And like I said, I want to see these guys really step it up, because I'm tired of seeing so many fair catches. I swear to God, we fumbled like 3 or 4 fair catches last season. So it's like, I want to see the team, and I especially want to see Hightower take the next step. I'm not necessarily saying he's on the hot seat, but I think there should at least be some pressure on him to really get the ball moving forward. Because returning season, and I get it wasn't Garoppolo's team, it was Mullens. Shanahan tried his best to get everything out of Mullens, and Mullens couldn't do it all the time. And I felt like a lot of that was from the return guys not getting much out of their yardage. And I get it's not easy to return nowadays, especially with how fast guys play. But I felt like just our team returning in particular wasn't as effective as it should be. So I want to see Hightower really coach these guys and really, really say, hey, let's get an extra 5 yards. Let's get an extra 10 yards. Because with the way offenses are these days, every point counts. And I want to see all those points be a big come from special team returning. You know what I mean? I want to see that be a big factor, especially out of Hightower.
All right, oh yeah, man. Coach Hightower has been over there, and he's been kind of cooling. And special teams has been a little lackluster. You're absolutely right. And to keep that position there for 3 years now, and no one's saying anything about it. Special teams is often the third. It's the forgotten phase. Is really what it is. There's 3 phases to the game: offense, defense, special teams, and it's the forgotten phase. No one's praising it, but back in 2011, 2012, that Tony Montana squad, that was a tone setting. That we started the game with swag. We started the game with energy. And every time there was a kickoff, they're in that huddle. Those guys are bouncing around. Go ahead, Jay. I know you want to talk about it. I want to get back to your Blair thoughts also, but I know you want to talk about it. That Tony Montana squad was
dude. Special teams is a direct reflection of the culture, man. It's the cellar dwellers on the roster doing everything they can to make an impact every time they step on the field. And the problem with the bottom of the 49ers roster is it is abysmal. So you're putting out the 6th receiver, the 4th running back. Mostert is the only guy who shined on special teams in the past 2 years. Some people will say Nziocha. I have no idea how that man made the Pro Bowl. But you remember when we had Kasim Osgood, we had C.J. Spillman, we had Larry Grant, we had Tavares Gooden, we had Blake Costanzo. And every single time they took the field, it was a race. Their hair was on fire. Who's going to make that play? Who's going to cause that fumble? Who's going to get that big hit? Who's going to make that block? That's what we're missing is the talent at the bottom of the roster to go out there and compete. Mostert is the only man under this regime on special teams who cut his teeth, busting his butt in coverage to get an opportunity to pretend to be a running back and actually flourish when given the chance, man. That is what this team is missing.
let's stop disrespecting my man as a running back. He earned that, all right? It didn't, and nah, I'm lying. He didn't earn it. He got it by default, but he looked damn good when he got in there. So that's my dude. But you're absolutely right, man. It's tone setting, man. It's tone setting, and you pointed up something really good, that these are the guys that you're on this roster because of your special teams ability. Make the best of it. I remember Delaney Walker even playing special teams. You know what I mean? Like, these guys were out there and they were trying to make a name for themselves. I want you guys to remember me. CJ Spillman left us and went to the Cowboys, and Colin Jones, someone else that people forget about. This linebacker, he was out there and couldn't do anything. He went to Carolina. He's been tearing it up over there. They love him in Carolina. You know what I mean? We don't – who is that guy this year? We sat here and named all these guys. We just named 8 people. Who's that guy? We know how good of a gunner Mostert is, but who's that guy? Who's going to bring the heat on special teams, man? There should be some pressure over there. I like that. I like that a lot. Scott, man, I want to give it back to you over here. Do you think that there's anybody, if you – I'm going to ask you specifically about John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and then the third person is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. These are the 3 heads of the team. No one has mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo this entire time. Do you think that there's any pressure on them? No one's mentioned Kyle Shanahan in particular. John Lynch's name has been said, but I want to ask you: do you sincerely think that there's any pressure on these guys? Why or why not?
Lynch definitely. His draft record hasn't been that solid. We'll see how they go this year. The draft picks we've made. Nick Bosa has to be obviously elite, especially after what happened with Solomon. What's happened with Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Mike McGlinchey has been good, but we're also looking at potentially. There's a number of draft picks who are going to be fighting for their spot on the team, and yet we're still kind of looking and saying there might be a hole at linebacker. We might have a hole at cornerback, and you think those are key positions in this scheme. And whilst we're saying on the one hand, Solomon Thomas is fighting for his position, Julian Taylor is fighting for his position, Kentavious Street's fighting for his position, etc., etc., etc. Someone like Marcel Harris, is he going to get on the roster? Adrian Colbert, is he going to get on the roster? And then we're still saying, but what about, we still don't necessarily have a cornerback. We still don't necessarily have a really, really good linebacker. We've got a guy coming off an ACL injury, and Fred Warner, who to his credit, looked very good at times last season, but is a second-year player. Who knows how that's going to shake out? 2 key positions that he hasn't filled, and then you kind of turn around and say, well, if those positions are issues for this season, this defense isn't gonna run. It doesn't matter how good the pass rush is, if the corners aren't doing a good job, if the linebackers are not good in coverage, and if the linebackers aren't getting in their gaps while they're being fired off the football because the linemen are leaving offensive linemen uncovered because of the new wide 9, suddenly the defense falls apart, and that's kind of the GM for not being able to acquire players to fulfill those positions. To Kyle Shanahan, I don't really think he's going to be under that much pressure because he's primarily responsible, I think, for the offensive side of the ball. But he's also the head coach, so there is that sort of culture element. That's going to come from him. Like special teams, Hightower might be under pressure. Can Kyle Shanahan develop that culture element throughout the team to be able to get the special teams working effectively? Do they have the players to do that now? Is another question. The offense has been fine. He's got his quarterback. Kyle Shanahan, the GM, might be under a bit of pressure if we are to be believed that he's had final say on the players, and John Lynch has been kind of handling the personnel side, but ultimately deferring to Shanahan. If they're again struggling from a personnel perspective, that not only is that going to put pressure on John Lynch, might the 49ers bring in a GM who is going to say, I am doing the personnel side, and Kyle Shanahan, you're going to coach. Focus on the coaching. Focus on making sure the offense is good, the defense is good, the special teams is good, and I will give you the players to make that system work. So that's the thing. I think Kyle Shanahan's potentially more under pressure as like an overall team leader than he is as a coach of this football team. And then to Jimmy Garoppolo, he's definitely under pressure insofar as, number one, he can't get injured again. He's got this, after this season, you can cut him. This contract has an out. He didn't look great last season, but he showed kind of flashes of what he showed the year before. And you kind of hope that what will happen is that there'll have been a sort of a down to earth, he'll have been brought down to earth a little bit by the injury. He'll be kind of ready to grind. He'll feel Nick Mullens breathing down his neck much more than he must have felt last season with Mullens below Bethard. Hopefully that will bring out competition and some pressure on Garoppolo to make sure he executes as well.
Okay. All right, Jay, I'm going to bounce this to you really quick. We got a question specifically for you in the chat room here. It's from my guy West Coast here, and he's saying, ask Jay why he hates Jimmy Garoppolo and calls him James. What's up with that, man? You don't like Jimmy Garoppolo?
No, so the problem is to have a cool nickname, you have to earn it, man. And so you came in and you won 6 games, you earned that Jimmy G. You know, you got to earn that back now. Now you're James. Just like we called Robert Griffin III Bob after he got injured, you are now James Garoppolo until you get back on that win streak, because I'm not feeling it, man, at all. Nick Mullens came in and balled, bro, with a bunch of nobodies. And that's what I want to see. Like, when Garoppolo came in there and didn't know anything and was just playing football, he was on fire. I don't care what people say about the competition. The man was just playing football. And again, as somebody pointed out last week or the last conversation, maybe it was too much thinking. Maybe now that he had the full playbook, it was just a lot to try and consume, where he got to bite off little pieces every game or every week last in 2017, bite off a little piece of the playbook, and then you don't have to worry about all of these adjustments at the line. You just go out there and Kyle says, hey, make sure you hit Bourne on the over route. If it's cover 3, boom. You know, there's not a lot of thinking, but I don't know, man. I don't hate Jimmy Garoppolo, but when it comes to pressure, when the theme of this conversation, nobody should be feeling more pressure than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm not even talking about in regards to how much money he's making, right? Like, in regards to just the effectiveness of him coming in and winning 6 straight games. In his brain, he had to be sick after going 1-2 and getting hurt. And now coming back again, never completing a full season, being injured in 2 of his seasons where he was, you know, the starter, the one in New England, getting hurt right away, and then coming in with all these expectations and then getting hurt right away. To me, he and Joe Staley have the absolute most pressure from the team in regards to the need for the team to have them out there healthy to win football games in 2019.
All right, man. He's calling him James. I'm not going to.
Hey, where do I see the chat at? Can I see that or no?
If you go, maybe if you have your phone over there, you go go to the YouTube page. You'll be able to see the actual chat and the live thing. Just make sure you turn your volume down on it, and you can see it there. It's the live chat going on in YouTube there. Scott, man, I know you got to get going soon, so I want to give you the floor, man. Is there anybody that we haven't mentioned or anything like that you want to bring light to for some pressure that's on them? And your last thoughts before you dip.
In some respects, there's going to be pressure on George Kittle to recreate what he did last season. I think. No, I mean, he doesn't have to be like the record-breaking tight end again, but I think what everyone would like to see from Kittle is he's sensational in the open field, become more of a bit of a red zone bully. You know, be that guy who you can post him up in the corner, and whether it's a safety on him, a corner on him, or a linebacker, he becomes that kind of Gronkowski threat. There's never, I don't think there's really ever been a tight end like him in the NFL with that run after catch, that 4.5 speed, the fact that he can run away from literally everyone on the defense. If he can add that kind of red zone ability, once he's taken this offense down the field, if he can do that again, fantastic. But what I think we all really want to see is once you're in that red zone, not only is he going to beat you on a slant or whatever, you can just say, George, go and beat that guy one-on-one, out physical him, bully him, beat him at the point of attack, beat him at the catch point. Can he do that? I've heard that he can. Apparently there's videos of it on 49ers.com of him posting up in kind of practices and stuff on people like Eric Reed. The question is, can he do it in a game? Can he be that person to kind of not only be the offense's kind of electricity from between the 20s? Can he be the kind of a finisher, but from the 20 to the end zone? That I think is the kind of the pressure on George Kittle. How do you step up from what he did last season? And there's certainly avenues for him to do that. And yeah, I think that would be my final one, really.
All right, guys, make sure you guys give Scott a follow on Twitter. He is Scott_Geelan. That is Geelan. All right, Scott, man, thanks for jumping in here, man. I know it's getting late over there, man. Have a good night. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, bud?
Much love. Speak soon, everyone.
All right, Scott.
Tony, man, you've been kind of quiet over there, bro. And he gave us George Kittle. And listen, I've gone on the record already in saying that I don't think George Kittle is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver this year. I got blasted for it. I'm not sure that we can expect much more from him in the red zone either. I just don't see him as that guy. It's not to say that he can't add on to it. Not to say that he can't be it. I think that George Kittle becomes a more physical guy in 2 or 3 years. I just don't see the big difference right now. And we've seen him hitting the weight room and everything like that. He's out there. He's trying to put on the pounds and the muscle and things like that. But I don't think it's his game. You know, we had a record that was set, and Shanahan forced his hand there. Shanahan was going to feed him that record. Shanahan felt guilty for not getting him that single game record against Denver, where he had it all but 4 or 5 yards in the first half, and then Shanahan didn't go back to him again in the second half. So he said, "I owe you one. I'll make it up to you," and sure enough, he did. I just think that with the addition of the extra weapons, we had Pettis here already, but we're expecting a bigger year from Pettis, and now you insert a guy like Jerick McKinnon, you insert another guy like Tevin Coleman, you insert another guy like Deebo Samuel. These are all pass catchers that are going to take targets away from a guy like George Kittle. Now, we know that he's good after the catch. He can go ahead and get the ball and he can go after the catch, but he's still got to catch those balls to get the yards after the catch. I don't think that the fans should sit here and get their hopes up for the production that he had last year. You can hope for more touchdowns, but I don't know, man. What do you think about that, Tony? You think it's something that's plausible?
I agree with your sorry. I agree with what you're saying. I think he's going to still be productive. I mean, I think a lot of catches. He might not get a lot of touchdowns, but you got to remember something. He was their go-to guy when last year, and Kyle had no way. I mean, he had Pierre Garçon who was on his last leg. He had Kendrick Bourne, Marquise Goodwin when he was in the field. Trent Taylor came on towards the end of the year, maybe the last 2-3 weeks. But I still think he's going to be productive. I mean, teams are going to probably try to bracket him and take him out of a game. But then that means the other guy's going to step up. And if they do step up, then there's no more bracketing. And, I think we all could agree on this, that Kyle Shanahan there's always someone wide open in that offense. Always. In the ball or not, that's a different topic. But someone is across the field wide open. I think he's going to be very productive this year. I don't think it's going to be to what he was last year, but I think he's still going to be a key in that offense. But listen, depends on now. They have to be able to. The other receivers have to step their game up, and now draw the double team off of, in my opinion. If that happens, then I think it's a game by game basis who the game plan is going to be, who Kyle targets in the game plan.
I feel you on that. I personally think that Kittle, even though I believe his production lacks this year, and it's not due to his ability, it's just due to, like I said, too many balls, not enough balls to go around all the different targets. I think that Kittle becomes more instrumental to this offense's success than Marquise Goodwin. We remember when Marquise Goodwin was out there and he was taking the top off, they had to respect him. They had to put a safety on top of him as well as a corner, and he could dictate coverage, right? I think George Kittle becomes that guy this year. And so we'll see a dip in production, but he'll be more instrumental to the success of this offense this year. And so, I'm not trying to diminish what he's doing or who he is. It's just how it's naturally going to happen. There's only so many offensive plays that we can do in a game. There's only so many targets he can get. Mike is jumping in here, man. My man, NY to the Bay. What's going on, Mike? How you feeling over there?
I'm feeling good, man. Just sitting down, making some ribs, having a drink. How you guys doing?
We're great, man. We're over here just chilling, man. We're talking pressure, bro. I mean, you hear the conversation, man. We're talking about who is the pressure on this year, man. I want to get your thoughts on it, man. I'm not even going to tell you who we said already because I want to get your organic thoughts. Who are some of the guys that you think are sitting around and, when they go home after practice, they're like, man, I really got to show up because if I don't, this could be it for me, whether it's on this team, whether it's my NFL career. Who are some of the guys that you think are going home and saying, I got to show up this year. We have to get the results this year.
I mean, it always starts at the top. Lynch, the front office is going to have the pressure. I caught what Scott was saying, and I wanted to jump in. I was having technical difficulties, but I think if they struggle again this year, Shanahan's gonna have pressure, and the focus is gonna start. Like the Super Bowl run he had with Atlanta is gonna start rubbing off a little bit. He needs to show next level head coach, not just offense coordinator, like a leader of the team, because I feel like he kind of separates himself, which is good because he's a mastermind at what he does, but he needs to show growth. So I feel like for me, I want to see Kyle Shanahan be the next great coach, and for that, he needs to step up, game plan, be in people's faces, super hyped. In terms of players, it always goes back to contracts. So Jimmy G obviously needs to bounce back. Jerick McKinnon, if he doesn't show up in camp, he could be out. He could never even play a game with the 49ers. So Malcolm Smith, anybody on big contracts would definitely feel the pressure, in my opinion.
I was having a conversation earlier this week. I don't want to say any names, but if it's okay, it's cool. But I was having a conversation earlier today, as a matter of fact, about the leader of men. We were talking about Kyle Shanahan, and we were talking about Sean McVay, and the conversation was about how do you determine who's a leader of men? Sean McVay is getting that nod, while Shanahan is just being looked at as a highly paid offensive coordinator, right? But if you look, McVay is on the sideline. My dog farted and it stinks. I'm sorry. It's real. Oh my God. If you look when the defense is if you look when the defense is on the field, McVay has his back turned to them. He's working on the next series, right? Shanahan is really, really involved in what the defense is doing and all. How do you determine who the leader of men is versus just the overhyped offensive coordinator? We'll go to Mike and then we'll go to Jay for that.
Well, I mean, it's tough to compare with McVay because he has Wade Phillips, an experienced head coach that he can turn to. Defense coordinator, Salah's still, unproven. So it's tough to say without being in the locker room realistically, but I will say that it smells. I will say, even with the season going not so well, they still stuck together. So that shows some leadership. I just feel like it needs to all come together. So, in my opinion, I mean, he still needs to improve. I feel like he still kind of is backed by his offense.
All right, Jay, man, I want to get your thoughts on it too. I know you want to jump in there, man. Leader of men, talk to me, man.
Yeah, so I feel like a great leader is going to be able to identify qualities in people that they employ that can lead without them having to necessarily grab that job by the reins, right? So a great person who's in charge of everybody is going to empower the people below them to make the decisions because they share the vision, right? So if you owned a business and say you owned a chain of restaurants and you hire a store manager for your McDonald's, a poor owner is going to have to be at that McDonald's all the time because they hired the wrong person to run the McDonald's. So they need to be there hands-on all the time. What's going on here? Why isn't this working? Well, you picked the wrong person to run the McDonald's. McDonald's being the 49ers defense and Robert Saleh being the poor manager. For whatever reason, people want to hold the personnel that Robert Saleh was given against John Lynch. How do we know that? How do we not know that that's not Robert Saleh's fault and Jeff Zagonia's fault last season? How do we not know that, unfortunately for John Lynch, Saleh just doesn't know how to operate a defense or be successful in whatever scheme? So he's telling Lynch that I need these people for this cover three. I need these type of D linemen, but he's not able to make it work. That's what will be interesting. I don't think Shanahan will ever get walked out of the building. I'm ready for when Saleh gets walked out of the building and somebody who knows what the hell they're doing takes over the defense, and all of a sudden they start playing like crazy.
All right, man. Anthony, you've been kind of quiet over there, bro. Oh, wait, Tony, go ahead. I see you. Go ahead.
Jay, I agree with what you said. I agree with what you said, but I honestly, with the move of adding Joe Woods to this defense as the quote-unquote passing game coordinator, I kind of feel like there's second guessing up to a certain point. We all know this defense is the base, is the cover three. But But implementing the wide 9, going Kocurek, you're hearing talks of, split safeties, 2, possible man coverage, branching away from the cover 3. I just think that's very interesting. And honestly, if they fall on their face, I'm not saying Saleh is going to go. Saleh has to go after spending all that money and investing a number 2 pick in Bosa, spending money on Quan Alexander. That's just my opinion on that.
Saleh's got a whole new roster here, and you're saying that he's got to go if he can't get some success? That's come on, man.
But Mike, think about it. Look what they added. They added Joe Woods, who was previously a defensive coordinator. All right. They wanted to add last year Ken Norton, who would have been a senior assistant linebacker coach to work with Saleh. That fell through. Ryans to the linebacker coach. So that meant Saleh was on his own. Now an ex-defense to work with him and give him the title of pass for the, and now you're seeing the split safeties, the cover 2, the man talk. So it just makes you think, like, do they have 100% confidence in Saleh? That's just my opinion. It's nothing like him. He's very intense, but I just think something's not sitting right with them, and I don't think they have 100% confidence for him to take that defense by himself and control it by himself.
All right, we'll go to Mike and then Anthony. Then I'll respond to the Saleh stuff because I think you guys are being a little unfairly critical of this guy. But we'll see. Go ahead, Mike.
They are.
You're on mute, buddy. You got to take yourself off mute first. Here he goes.
All right, my bad. All right, so let me ask you a question, Mike. If things don't work out this year and it falls flat on their ass, right? It's year 3. Somebody has to go. Answer the question. So it's either him or it's a clean house. So are you? I mean, in my opinion, that is because answer the question. So I mean,
right. But doesn't it depend on
the fall guy? He's the fall guy, unless you're going to make the special teams guy Hightower. That's not much of a splash because after year 3, you need to make a jump. There needs to be some sort of leap. You can't,
I do agree that Saleh's the fall guy. I do. Don't get me wrong. And you see the changes happening on his side of the ball. Defensive line coach, they got Scanina out of here. They got Halfley out of here, and they replaced both of those guys. You see it happening already. But he's got new weapons, new talent. He's got to have time to learn how to make these guys mesh. You got a new defensive line scheme that you're trying to implement, this wide 9. And then you got a new secondary scheme that you're trying to implement, and he's got to find a way to put all of this together. And so here's my question. I'm not saying that he's not the fall guy. I do agree with you on that. My question is going to be more about, does it matter how they end the year? What if they start rough the first 5 or 6 weeks, but then we start getting better, but it's too late by then? What if we start getting better, the second half of the season? Does that save his career?
I mean, it might. It depends. I mean, the way I look at it is that you had D Ford, okay? You had Nick Bosa. I mean, there has to be a huge improvement. So, like, yeah, if there's a couple games right at the beginning, 2, 3, 4 games, okay, sure. But if it's not the majority of the season and they just, maybe play a couple of decent games at the end, no, he's gone.
Jake, pop in, man. I see you. I see you want to jump in, Jay. Go ahead.
I think that Saleh may be the opposite of Shanny, to where it seems like Saleh is really good at relating to his players and being like, yeah, let's go, bro. Good job out there. High five. I don't think he knows shit about X's and O's in regards to scheming up a defense. What has he done, bro? Like, in regards to watching these games, where have you ever seen Saleh draw something up to counter what you know is coming to help his defense out? How many times did you see Sherm get beat on comebacks again and again and again and again in the cover 3? Never a linebacker sliding out there to jump in that passing lane. never any safety help. You can give him all the excuses in the world in regards to personnel and switching the safeties and a new safety every week. Bro, we had people that we were relying on that he could, like, if it wasn't for DeForest Buckner being a man-child, what did he do to help DeForest Buckner? Ask yourself that. No, in regards to the players, period, what has Saleh done to help his young players? What have they done to coach up anybody? What young player came in that they coached up to bring up the level of play? Just answer that question.
Every single guy that came in to replace an injured player, we were like, oh, wow, maybe he's the one. It wasn't until after they were in the scheme and the position coaches got their hands on them in particular, they started to fall back. Think about this for a second. Ahkello Witherspoon was on the bench because it was Dante Johnson and Rashard Robinson, right? Then one of those guys goes down, they pop in Ahkello Witherspoon. Oh, man, he looked good. Then they put the other guy back, and the other guy goes down. Here comes Ahkello Witherspoon. Oh, man, he looked good. We thought Ahkello looked really good his rookie season. Then he comes back, and then, boom, it's downhill from there. This happened time and time again throughout that defense. Anytime a guy went down and someone else came in, we were like, man, they got these guys ready. And then all of a sudden, it's like, all right, maybe they're not as ready. I've said this on this show a couple of times. It's always a matter of, who's responsible for getting them ready in case they have to get called up. And then does the responsibility change after they're in the lineup? Because that's when we started to see people become a liability, is once they were inside the lineup. Now, I don't know how those responsibilities are assigned. So I'm not saying it's not Saleh. I'm not saying it is Saleh. I just don't know how to spin that.
We'll see, bro. All right, so everybody loves Fred Warner, right? Fred Warner's the future. Fred Warner, man, if it would have been Fred Warner and Ferrari Foster, Fred Warner has got to be the person, if you are the DC, that you're hanging your hat on in season 2 to prove that you haven't completely blown being able to coach up your young players. You're absolutely right. Dudes would step in and they would perform at a decent level, but nobody took that shit to the next level in their second year. Everybody fell back. And how does that not fall on the DC? And the problem is, to me, rotating these position coaches underneath the DC. So you had one guy who might have had a really strong grasp of a cover 3 or whatever, but he was struggling a little bit in run support. Now you bring in a guy who helps out your run support, but maybe that sacrifices some of your coverage. And that's the problem. Like, he doesn't have that go-to, like you guys are talking about Kasarik as far as the D-line coach. We'll see. I don't know, man. Like, and that's the problem. But the beauty is that he's been given weapons. D Ford, hopefully Nick Bosa, Buckner. Now he's got weapons to really be able to flex a little bit. When you have the talent, you don't have to be that great with X's and O's. When your DB room looks like San Francisco, we're all praying that Colbert stays healthy, or I am.
I hear you, bro. I don't want to say anything else. I know Anthony wanted to jump in because he wanted to defend Saleh a little bit also. I want to see what Anthony has to say. We're going to wrap this thing up soon because we have another show is going to be coming to you guys in less than an hour at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. West Coast. We're going to be doing another show here today with Tracy Sandler, 49er Fangirl. So you guys make sure you're tuned in and you're locked in. Hit those notifications so you know as soon as we go live. But Anthony, man, they're beating up our guy Saleh, man. What's up, bro? How do you feel about this, man? What's up? Talk to me, man.
Mike, if I asked you right now what the Niners' overall ranking on defense is, out of all 32 teams, what would you say? What number? Last
13.
season. Okay. I'm not going to let anyone else talk because you guys can be quiet. The Niners finished 15th overall out of the whole league last season on defense. And outside of Buckner, Warner was the rookie, I get it. Who was their next best player? Sherman wasn't healthy. The next corner I can hardly name because they were coming off the field every snap because they give up the next biggest play. Tart wasn't healthy. Colbert wasn't healthy. I couldn't even name all the safety rotations. Saleh isn't getting credit for what he did with what he had. If I gave him a D-line with Cassius Marsh and player B on the other side of the edge, and they got 5 sacks, 6.5 sacks for a rotational guy who was playing starting snaps, by the way, I would tell him good job. At least you got something out of nothing. And I don't get why he gets so much hate when I could probably compete on that roster for the next best spot. That's how bad the players played. And that's not on Saleh. That's just the overall talent he had. And you can't ask Saleh, okay, go out there and get every single stop when your quarterback is Nick Mullens. And Eric Crocker in our chat said this that I want you guys to understand. Nick Mullens at his best was a 90 QBR. Jimmy Garoppolo at his worst is a 90 QBR. So you give the offense a healthy Garoppolo who can constantly move the ball, where Mullens it was honestly 50-50, and Garoppolo who can keep the defense off the field and keep them rested and give them time to plan for the next series. Well, I will give Saleh that much because he really didn't have any chance to give his guys some rest and give his guys some leeway when they're going out there every other snap. I mean, we saw how ugly Beathard was before Mullens came in, and we saw how ugly Mullens was when he wasn't on his best. So what kind of position does that put Saleh in, you know? And I get a lot of people like to talk pressure, but when you're not getting sacks, and you know how many guys we saw last season miss sacks? How can you blame all that on Saleh when Saleh is calling the right plays to put those guys in the right situation? And they can't get it done. So I think bringing in Joe Woods and Chris Kosierek will hopefully take the pressure off Saleh. But again, it is on him to get the job done, and I think he will. Like I said from the beginning, what pieces did he have until everyone started going down? I mean, Antonio Exum, starting safety, and don't give me bullcrap saying, oh, well, he did good. Well, it's easy to tell a bad player he did good when he's the only one who can do something on the field. He's going to be bad 9 times out of 10, but that one good time, you're going to say, oh, well, he's fine. Look who he is. Saleh doesn't get the credit for what he was working with and what kind of positions the offense was putting him in. When Beathard was turning over the ball every other series, Mullens was hardly moving the ball whenever he could. And it's like, how can that fall on Saleh when he's not even getting as good of a position as the offense could be getting? You know? So now that Saleh finally has his pieces, he has things to work with, and he finally has good rotations and at least decent depth players who can fill in properly, at the least on the D-line. Because I still think the DBs can be upgraded. I still think the linebackers could be upgraded. But it all starts with the front four. And you look at who we added, and you look at up-and-coming guys like Julian Taylor and Ronald Blair, Mike's guy, Ronald Blair. The rotation fits. And it starts from there. And with the pieces we added, there's no way there should not be improvement. There should be improvement. So Saleh has his pieces. He has everything in front of him to make it work. And he made it work last season. It was just bad when the defense was giving up more big plays more often than not. But at that point, they're burnt out because the offense couldn't move the ball as much as they should. Look at the Tampa Bay game. Tampa Bay is a good offense, but what did our offense do against the worst defense? 9 points. You know? So it's not all on Saleh. I give him a lot of the way because of how much he has to work with. And I think it will be better. It has to be better. He just doesn't get enough credit than he deserves.
We were 13th in yards on defense. We were 28th in points allowed. We were 32nd in turnovers. We didn't allow a lot of yards because our offense didn't get a lot of yards. So teams were taking over on their 40 or the 50 or our side of the field due to turnovers. So we were giving up a shit ton of points, but not a lot of yards when we finally got a decent 3 first down drive to punt that ball down to the goal line. So yes, in regards to yards allowed, rushing and passing, our defense was not that bad. In regards to points allowed, it was horrific. And in regards to turnovers created, it was abysmal.
But we didn't see you with 5 turnovers.
It was like that every series, though. Almost every offensive series that they couldn't do anything, the defense was automatically put into a bad position. You can't expect them to get a stop every single time. It just happened to be they were in that bad position more often than not.
Mike,
you can't fully hold that on Saleh.
Go ahead, Mike. I saw Mike.
Yeah, but so I feel like Anthony's kind of like proving the point of why the pressure is on Saleh. Because last year, you shouldn't really blame him for it, but now he does have the tools. So if it fails, you have Bosa, you have people that are going to close for it. They're all going to close. If you still can't make it happen, it's all on him. Absolutely, there's no doubt. Like, who else would they put it on.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I get what you guys are saying, right? But Shanahan has got 3 years to make his offensive side of the ball, right? I don't think Saleh was saying, hey, guys, don't worry, I don't need a pass rush this year. No, it's year 2. No, I still need a pass rush. You can get it from me in year 3. I don't think he was saying things like that. I think he wanted a pass rusher. They just didn't go and get him one. We expected Robert Saleh to make a gourmet meal with table scraps and leftovers from someone else's dinner.
Right.
That's what he did. He came in here.
Yeah, but I'm not like the past is the past, and he didn't have a whole lot. Like Cassius Mars, like yeah, you can't really judge him on that. You know, anybody that is kind of stupid. But now, like D Ford is legit. Nick Bosa is projected as legit. So like he really needs to take the next step. They don't have to close on 50 sacks between the 3 of them, but they need to get damn near close because I'm sick of pressures. I mean, I like the attitude that Saleh has, so hopefully he brings the best out of all of them. I think this is the year. I mean, I really feel it. Because I mean, somebody has to fall. I feel like the pressure is on him.
There's definitely going to be a fall guy, and like I said in the beginning of all this, I do believe that Robert Saleh is the fall guy. We've seen the changes happening on the team, and they are all happening on his side of the ball. I don't think that we've got a wide receiver coach. We have a new running backs coach or anything like that. They're not getting rid of those guys. They're content with what they have on the offensive side of the ball. They're clearly placing the blame and the onus of our non-success on Robert Saleh and his staff. They're already replacing those guys over there. So it's very obvious. It's painfully obvious that it's on that side of the ball. We're gonna wrap this thing up soon. Tony, man, you've been kind of quiet over there. I want to give you the floor to jump in before Dre pops in. Dre's been saying a lot of stuff in the chat room. I want to get Dre in here and see what he's got to say. He thinks that I hate George Kittle all of a sudden because I don't think Kittle's going to have a record-setting season. So we'll talk to Dre when he pops in. But Tony, what's up, bro?
Just like kind of close the topic on Saleh. This whole topic of the show is, I can promise you this. I'm not in the Bay Area. I don't know no inside shit. But if he falls on his face, I'm not wishing it. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just talking about what our topic is. He falls flat, he's gone. Shanahan's not going nowhere. He is out. And that's that. We all agreed that he's the fall guy. I'm not knocking him. Let's be real. He quit. All he had was Defoe. That's it. That is it. Then they added Sherman. And that was it. A ton of injuries. I feel bad for the guy, but this year is the put up or shut up. He's got 2 good experienced coaches surrounding him. And just one more thing before Dre jumps on, a sleeper for new medical staff. They cleaned training staff. They cleaned house with everybody on that. Okay? These guys are brought in to stop the injuries. They're under a lot of pressure because last year was not good.
You are absolutely right. 100%. This medical staff has got to be under a ton of pressure because they cleaned house completely. Like it wasn't just a couple of guys. They completely changed everything over there. So this medical staff is going to be charged with keeping these guys healthy. Shanahan has already said that we can survive a couple of injuries, but they don't want to do it that way. So we're going to see what happens with the medical staff. It's definitely something to keep our eye on. They claim to be the most advanced, and they're coming over from a hockey. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. Anthony's off camera, Mike is off camera. So Dre, man, I'm going to give you the floor, man. You can start wherever you want to start, man. What's going on, man? How you feeling over there, baby?
Oh man, it's a good day. It's always a good day when you're above ground, bro. It's always a good day when you're above ground. As far as Saleh, I think he deserves some slack. You come into the season, you have a healthy group, then Jimmy Ward goes down. People can say a lot about Jimmy Ward, but when the guy is on the field, the guy can play football, period, point blank. So then you have to go in and you have to replace Jimmy Ward with, a guy who's been in the league for a year under a defense, which is kind of somewhat like Shanahan's defense. Saleh's defense is a complex defense. There's a lot of things that go on. And so after that happens, then Kwaski T goes out. Then we're not, us being fans and not knowing what's going on inside the locker room. Richard Sherman was not 100% healthy. Then you have a guy in Ahkello Witherspoon who, for the love, if you put a gun to his head and said, you have to defend the ball or we're going to kill you, like Ahkello would just say, go ahead and kill me right now. Because Hey, Mike, come on, dude. You know what I'm talking about, bro. So many times the ball was in the air and a kilo was in position, and all you have to do is a kilo. Turn your head and put your hand up and block the ball, make a play on the ball. And for the life of me, he couldn't do it. Then he tried this. He started to try to jump routes and he started to get burnt. So, what I just don't understand like why guys will say, well, Salah has to go. Like he was dealt so many bad hands, bro. Like it doesn't make any sense. And then you have a guy in Cassius Marsh who is he's a change of speed edge. He comes off the edge. He's good at running the ball down. He's speedy and rangy, but at the end of the day, he's not a guy who's going to go in and get 10 sacks. He's a rotational guy that can come in just like he did with Seattle and get 4 or 5 sacks, per year coming off the bench. But he's not a starter, right? And then you have a rotation of guys, basically, 2 and 3 year guys and some 1 year guys who were basically, undrafted free agents. I don't remember us drafting Ronald Blair, but he became a player. I don't remember us drafting DJ Jones. He was an undrafted, free agent. So like you said, Salah had to take, the scraps, what was left over, and put it on a plate and say, here's dinner. And with that being said, he did a pretty damn good job with your defense only creating 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions. We all know that the NFL has been running for 100 years, right? And we are the only team in NFL history to only have 2 interceptions. It's never been done before. So with all that being said, and you happen to plug and play players who were not necessarily ready to do so, and Adrian Colbert, he came on your show. I was there that night. I'm always on your show, bro. I was there that night, and what did he say? One of his favorite players is Patrick Peterson. He went into the season thinking that he was Pat Peterson, and that was not really his style of play. He started feeling himself because of the first year of play that he had. So, with that being said, bro, I just think that Salah had to plug and play a lot of guys where they really weren't ready, and he just have to make do with what he had, and I think he did a pretty damn good job. Also, having a quarterback like Nick Mullens. Nick Mullens, yes, he led the NFL in the second half of the season with 2,200 yards. He led the NFL in yardage, as far as throwing yardage in the second half of the season when he played. But at the end of the day, this guy had 10 touchdowns. He had 13 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So, Mike, that means every touchdown he had, bro, he was throwing an interception. Besides for the last three touchdowns, you know what I'm saying? So I really don't think that's great. When you're turning the ball over 13 times, your defense has to be on the field more, right? And then how many interceptions did CJ Beathard have? I know it was a bad number. It was at least like 7 or 8, bro. So if you look at let's look that up, because if you're looking at CJ Beathard's interceptions and then you look at Mullens' interceptions, then that's like another 17, 18 times that the defense has to be on the field. So what does that do?
He had 7 picks.
Hey, come on. Hey, Jay, bro. I just got on, bro. I would never interrupt you when you was talking. Please don't do that to me, bro. I'm already kind of mad at you for saying that Jimmy G's name is James. You know what I'm saying? Like that was kind of disrespectful.
But his name is James,
on here. We're not on here to bash our quarterback, bro. We're on here to talk him up and to be optimistic, because we know that this guy could be a franchise quarterback. He didn't get $130 million for no reason. Well, $126 million for no reason. Like, the guy's a player. He just got injured. Of course, he should have took the sack. If you look at it, Jimmy could have took the sack, but at the end of the day, he showed me that he was a winner by doing something that he doesn't do.
He threw 5 interceptions in 5 games in 2017. 1 interception per game.
Okay. And so what did Nick Mullens do? He threw 10 starting 8 fucking games. So what are we saying?
So we were talking about an average of 1.2 versus 1.0?
So you're trying to make the argument that Nick Mullens is better than Jimmy Garoppolo? Is that what you're doing right now?
Nick Mullens is more effective for the amount of money that he
leaves. Out of here, bro. Oh my God. This is bad. We have nothing to talk about no more, bro. We have nothing to talk about no more, bro.
San Francisco need to finish for you to justify having Jimmy Garoppolo.
We have nothing to talk about no more, because I know when Jimmy came.
Answer that question. What does their record need to be?
Hold on. I'm muting people. Listen, we can't talk over each other. I'm cool with a debate. I'm cool with a heated debate, but we can't talk over each other. The microphones don't pick up. I muted both of you guys. All right. So if we're going to do this, I'm okay with that, but we got to go one at a time. All right. We can go back and forth, but we cannot talk over each other. The microphones will pick it up, and it's just to show them that I can't do that. We're not going to do that. We got to make sure we can hear each other clearly, make your points, move on to the next guy. I'm game for all of that, all right? So you guys can take yourselves off of mute, figure out who's going to go next, and then, let the person say what they got to say and respond. Now, Jay did say, he said, for the money, Jimmy is more effective. Nick is more effective than Jimmy. He specified for the money. This is like manipulating stats to get him to say what you want him to say, right? Dollar for dollar, who's bringing up more value. That's what he was saying. In that sense, that's true. I would still take Jimmy over Nick, but that was his point with that right there. All right, so Dre, the floor is yours. Take off, bro.
All right, so at the end of the day, I feel like when Jimmy came in and he beat, two playoff teams, and one who was probably a Super Bowl bound team. Maybe if Leonard Fournette would have ran out their route, it was one of the last plays of the game where they had the ball and they were marching up the field. I think they're like on the 37-yard line, and they threw the ball to the flats, and Leonard Fournette didn't stretch out and catch the ball. And the Patriots got the ball. I mean, the other team got the ball back, and they went on and scored. And the Jacksonville Jags, they ended up losing the game. But I thought that they should have won the game. You know what I mean? But when Jimmy G came in and he went on that run, like I guarantee you that me included and Jay included, were like, okay, we found our franchise quarterback, right? And then he goes into the season and he put his body on the line and he does something that he normally doesn't do. And he was trying to get the first down because we were actually in that Kansas City game and it was a freak accident. He tore his ACL. Okay. Now that showed me right there that this guy's a winner and he would do what needs to be done to get us a W. If that's getting outside the pocket and trying to get the first down, even though you're not a running quarterback, you know what I'm saying? That just showed me that you're a winner and that you will put your body on the line and do what it needs to be done to get a win. Now, because he got the injury, I feel like a lot of our fan base has turned on him and said, well, this guy's not worth the money. But bro, nobody was saying that shit when he came in and he rumbled off, 5-6 wins. Like nobody was saying that. So I feel like it's super unfair to say that to Jimmy G. With scraps, this guy beat three playoff teams and went on a tangent and had us. Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. Now, here's where I think people's gripe is, right? Jimmy Garoppolo came in on a trade and had his tear of 5 games straight. The moment he got that check is when everything went downhill. Some people are going to argue that he got complacent. Some people are going to say that, it was me personally, I don't think that it was complacency. I think that it was his first year under Shanahan's real book. We saw Matt Ryan struggle with this. We've seen guys in their first year. They don't look good under Shanahan's entire playbook. I don't think it had anything to do with his pay. I could be completely wrong. But there are some people that feel like, look, this dude got paid. He got complacent. He knows he got $37 million guaranteed. And so, what's out there to play for? So I want to give it back to Jay. That's my personal thought. And then if anybody else on the panel wants to jump in, I see Mike is attentive too. If anybody else wants to jump in, you guys feel free to do that.
I never seen Nick Mullens throw 3 interceptions in one game. You want to talk about what Jimmy G did in 2017? Tell me about what he did in 2018. Talk to me about the Minnesota Viking game.
He tore his ACL.
No. See, now he didn't tear his ACL versus Minnesota. Versus Minnesota, he came out there and threw 3 interceptions and shit the bed, right?
Okay, all right.
The guy that you just showed you that he was a winner when he tried to run down the sideline instead of getting out of bounds, he shit the bed. Then he came back the next week and he was, all right.
I mean, you make it sound like Minnesota has.
Let's talk about Nick Mullens now, okay?
Nick Mullens is trash.
Nick Mullens is 3-5. So you don't want to let me talk now. That's how we want to do this. Jimmy Garoppolo was sacked 13 times in 3 games. Nick Mullens was sacked 17 times in 8 games. Nick Mullens threw for 2,277 in 8 games. If you take Jimmy Garoppolo's stats and you multiply them by 3, he's at 2,100, so he's less than Nick. You take Jimmy Garoppolo's touchdowns, you multiply them by 3, he's got 2 more touchdowns than Nick with 1 more game. You take Jimmy Garoppolo's interceptions, you multiply them by 3, he's got 1 less interception with 1 more game. So I don't know why you're in love with Jimmy Garoppolo off of his 2017 performance. When 2018 he came in, he was 1-2, first game of the season, threw 3 interceptions with a healthy roster, and then in the third game of the season gets injured. I don't understand why people are so in love with this man, to be honest with you.
So let me shoot Jimmy some bail, and I'm gonna tear down Nick Mullens, even though I like him, just for the sake of the debate, though. So, in my opinion, what we saw of Nick Mullens is the same as what we saw as Jimmy in 2017. We saw them at their best because there was less on their plates. These guys didn't have to know the full extent of the playbook, even though they say that Nick Mullens knows the playbook more than anybody else on the team. But Shanahan wasn't calling on these guys to do that. He kept everything simplified so these guys could shine. You compare Jimmy Garoppolo in his first 5 to Nick Mullens in his first 5, and it's not even close. It's not the same thing at all. But when you look at Jimmy versus Nick Mullens, right? It's the whole playbook. It's the chemistry with the entire team versus, hey, go out there. You got nothing to lose. You're the third string guy anyway. Jimmy entered the same way that Nick Mullens entered. When Jimmy came in, Hoyer had gone down, Beathard had gone down. You're the third guy. We got nothing to lose. Go out there and have fun. Boom. He set the world on fire. When Mullens came in, it was much of the same. You're the third guy. We got nothing to lose. Jimmy had gone down. Beathard had gone down. Go out there and have fun. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, he killed the Raiders. That Raiders game was special to me. But that Jaguars game, it probably meant a little bit more because I know we beat a better team that day. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that Nick Mullens is better, because I think if we step back and we look at quarterback attributes, if we look at IQ, maybe Nick Mullens has him there. But that's probably it. Arm strength, pocket awareness, footwork, things like that. Jimmy is going to blow him out the water. Now, it's a mental game. Don't get me wrong, especially in Kyle's system. It's more mental than it probably is physical. So maybe that weighs more for Nick Mullens. But I do think that everybody out here would take Jimmy over Nick Mullens. I don't know many people on this panel that would say it the other way around. Dre, I'm going to give it back to you now. Go ahead, bro. Make sure you take yourself off of mute.
All right. So, once again, we have people speaking of hyperbole and comparing stats from 3 games and saying that's what his stretch would have been over the whole season, which that's bullshit. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at the Minnesota Vikings, they have a pretty good front 7. They don't. So Eric Kendricks isn't a good linebacker. They have probably one of the best linebacker tandems in the league. You know what I'm saying? They're 2 linebackers, and they have a great front 7. So, and when you get sacked, you said he got sacked 13 times in 3 games. That's a lot of hits to take. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and then Mullens gets sacked. I think you said 17 times in 8 games. So he got sacked almost as much times as Mullens did over not even half of the amount of games. You know what I mean? But this is hyperbole. This is comparing 3 games to, a 8-9 game stretch, which is just not, possible to do. You know what I mean? Like I said, Mike just made another point. I think beating the Jags on the season that they were having, and it's not like we just beat them, like we smacked the hell out of them and we scored 44 points against the best defense in the league that year. That's a huge statement. And I would rather take that over scoring 34 points to the weak-ass Raiders any day. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just not going to – I will never say that Nick Mullens is the same quarterback as Jimmy G, because he's not. I'm not going to take – he's just not. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just not, bro. He didn't play, with one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game under Tom Brady, under the Patriots system. With Coach Belichick, like Jimmy Garoppolo did. All of those intangibles and those things that he learned, like he brings to this locker room. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Nick Mullens is not a Jimmy Garoppolo. You can say what you want, but he's just not. Never will.
I'm going to give it back to Jay, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to propose a little friendly wager between you two after Jay says what he's got to say. So, Jay, you go ahead and take off, man, and then we'll go from there.
Just feel free to chime in that 44-point game. Do you have any idea how many yards we had passing in the second half?
Bro, I'm not a Google encyclopedia. You know what I'm saying? I could look it up. I mean, you're sitting in front of a computer screen, like I'm laying in my bed. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not sitting in front of a computer screen. I'm on my phone. You know what I'm saying? Like having a conversation. Like no matter what you say, Jay, like Like, bro, we're all men, right? And we're human beings, and we have the right to our opinion. You know what I'm saying? But no matter what you say, I'm not gonna fucking believe that Nick Mullens is better than Jimmy Garoppolo because he's not. He's a backup quarterback, bro. That's what he is. He came in and he was having fun. You know what I'm saying? He put a good string of games in. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, he's not a Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's
All right,
just be real about
hear
this,
me out, though. Do you know how many games Jimmy Garoppolo has started for the 49ers?
bro.
He's
Do you
6
know
and
how
2.
many games?
He started 8. He's
Right.
6 and 2.
Bro, so
Do you know how
he
many
started.
games
He
Nick
came
Mullens
in and won
started?
5 in 2017, and then he went 1-2. Right? How many games did Nick Mullens
62.
win last year? How many games did Nick Mullens win last year?
Nick
How
Mullens
many?
won
Huh?
3.
No, he won. He won 3. I thought we only won 2 games. Didn't we only win 3 games? Weren't we
We won
3-13?
No, we went 4 and 12 last year.
Oh, okay. So I mean, all right. So he won 3, and what was the rest of his record? 3 and 5.
I don't know.
Was that his record?
They both started the same amount of games, and they both have equal stats. But you're here to tell me that because James
Jimmy
has a cool
Garoppolo,
name,
he's
because
62,
James
bro.
has a nickname, that's your quarterback of the future. We'll see.
I'm not talking about a nickname. I just felt that it was disrespectful to say, well, we're going to start calling him James. Like, bro, this is like, we're grown men, bro. Like, we're not going to start calling people out of their names and disrespect them because they had an
James
ACL
is his
injury.
name.
James
Yeah.
is his name, though. James is legitimately his name, though. Just so we're clear here. Now, listen,
Okay.
guys. We're gonna go back and forth, but I gotta get. Listen, stop. I gotta get ready for another show. You, Mike. I'm gonna give it to you after I say this real quick. I'm gonna propose a gentleman's bet between you two. Right? I don't know how we can prove this, but if Jimmy Garoppolo comes out here and has a Pro Bowl year, I say Jay has to do 20 push-ups on camera. If he doesn't have a Pro Bowl year, I'm not
I'll
saying
do
All
50.
Pro.
I'll do you one better. I bet you 100 push-ups that Nick Mullens plays in more games than James Garoppolo in this season. I bet you 100 push-ups.
Hey, bro, I want my 100. Hey, Jay, bro, I want my 100 push-ups, dude. I want my 100, bro. Let's not have an arguing, screaming match over 100 push-ups, bro. Let's just man up and do it. All right. Respect.
And we will broadcast this right here. I can't wait. This is good.
I can't wait either. I can't wait, bro. Because Jimmy G is definitely going to be he's a sleeper for MVP candidate, and he's going to be the comeback player of the year. He's going to be.
All right, Mike, man. I want to give it to you, and then we're going to wrap this thing up because I got another show I got to get ready to do.
No, all I was going to say was Jimmy G just didn't play enough. So it's tough to say. Like Nick Mullens. All right. So which team was the worst team in the NFL last year? Who picked number 1? The Cardinals. Who lost to the Cardinals twice?
We did.
No, but a quarterback play.
Nick Mullens.
Nick Mullens, exactly.
Thank you. Against the Chiefs that should have really made the play or the Super Bowl.
Right.
The Vikings at home with season opener, which was a lot rocking, okay, and then beat the Lions. So it's tough to really, go Mullens over there. I mean, he beat Oakland, which is great. But he lost to Arizona. Right. He looked okay, but let's just calm down. Just calm down. Jimmy all the way.
Yeah.
And the other thing is this, right? If we go off a small sample size, Jimmy did not look good in those first 3 games. And I'm talking about mechanics, I'm talking about decision making, and all those interceptions. He didn't look good. He definitely.
But when you're getting sacked 13 times in 3 games, bro, I mean, how can you look that good, bro? So 13 sacks in 3 games,
There's a plethora of reasons as to why he didn't look good. I'm not, you know what I mean? A lot. You're saying the sacks. A lot of people are going to say, well, he held onto the ball too long. We saw Shanahan yelling at him to get rid of the ball faster, right? There's a plethora of reasons. I'm not saying just him. I'm just saying he didn't look good. But if you look at the first 4 games of the last 2 seasons, the Patriots were 2-2, and people were saying their dynasty is over. It happened both times. It happened both years. Kansas City smacked them. What was it, like week 2 or week 3 when Kansas City whooped them? We remember that. That was with Alex Smith one time. So my point is, a lot could have changed. You know what I mean? A lot can change if Nick Mullens gets 16 games at the helm. A lot can change if Jimmy Garoppolo had all 16 at the helm. We don't know. Yeah. What we do know is this: Jay and Dre have a bet for 100 push-ups on who will start more games, and I can't wait for it. Hey, listen, I'm doing 30 just because I feel like my fat ass need to get involved somehow. So we're gonna do 30 on that, guys. I want to thank you all for jumping in. I sincerely thank you guys for your time. This was a lot of fun. I got to go do a more peaceful show after this. All right. So you guys take care. I'm going to open it back up to you guys. Tell everybody your Twitter handles, and then drop yourselves out afterwards. Tell them your Twitter handle, where to follow you, and we'll keep this thing moving. We'll go from Dre, Jay, Anthony, Mike, and then Tony. All right,
bro. I'm fairly new to Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Like I just retired from social media. You know what I mean? Just too much negativity in my life. But Twitter is better because it's really just based off of sports and music for me on Twitter. My name is Dre Berry, all caps. So it's Dre, DREBERR1 at Twitter. You know what I mean? So hit me up. I'm not too big on trying to get followers and all of that, but I'll follow the people that I want to keep up with. Thank you for the platform. And like I said, Jay, even though we don't agree, bro, I still respect, you know what I'm saying, what you had to say, because you made some good points, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's the good thing about our fandom is we can agree to disagree, you know what I'm saying, to have good conversation.
all right, Jay, you up next, man. Go ahead.
All right, first of all, love and respect to everybody who came out to be a part of the show, man. I appreciate you having me on. Shout out to all you guys. You can follow me on Twitter at JAYNOVEL, JNovel. I appreciate you all. It's been a blast. I hope to come back sometime soon, man. You guys have a wonderful evening.
My man. All right, Anthony, man, you're up, bro.
All right, guys. To some of you who know, to some who don't know, the Twitter for me is Perry, PERRY, NB9. For NB9. We're talking about Niners and the sports, and I'll see you guys soon.
All right, guys, if you didn't hear what he said, it was breaking up a little choppy there. It is Perry, PERRY _NB9, like NB Niners. All right, so you guys give him a follow over there. My man Mike, you're up next. What's going on, man? Let us know.
All right, forget about the rest of them. Follow me at NY to the Bay, the #1 follow in Twitter. Love you guys. Thanks for joining us.
My man Mike, man, always cool. We call him Cool Mike in the crew, just so you guys know, and I mean it. He's way cooler than I am. He's got swag, man. All right, Mike, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. All right, I'll check you later, bro. All right.
Yeah, man. Too.
Tony, you're up next, man.
What can I say, man? This was good. It was interesting. There's a lot of good points made. But just real quick before I jump off, listen, that was his first full year in Kyle's full book. His full playbook. It's very complicated. They need time to grow. I will say they didn't get blown out in those games. They were still fighting in it at the end. He did throw 3 picks for Minnesota, but they got a good defense. You can follow me, NJ Niner Fan 499. Hit me up anytime. Any questions, any comments, let me know. We'll talk with you. That's all I got, Mike.
All right, my man Tony, man. And guys, that is going to be it for the show. I want to thank everybody for checking this one out. We did this one very, very early in the day in comparison to what we normally do. We wanted to try to do something a little different. I wanted to bring you guys 2 shows. We wanted to do one yesterday, but we did not have the time to jump on. I got a little tied up. Nick has been under the weather. I see a lot of you guys asking about Nick. He is okay. He is around, but he, like I said, is just a little under the weather. He will be back, so you guys don't worry about that at all. If you want to give my man Nick a follow or check up on him, hit him up on Twitter, guys. He is very interactive over there, even in the DMs, okay? He is 49er Faithful 365. 49ER FAITHFUL 365. Give my man a follow over there. If you're looking for me on Twitter, I am 49ers Mike _NFL. That is 49ERS MIKE _NFL. You can give me a follow. And the main page, guys, where the magic happens, is nothing but the number 9 in nothing but the number 9 in. God, what is wrong with me right now? Nothing but the number 9 ERS. Nothing but Niners on Twitter. All right, you guys give us a follow over there. We'll go ahead and have a lot of fun. All right, Interactive is going to be a very, very good year. We had a good week here for you guys. Make sure you are locked in. Clear your calendars, guys. We're going to be right back to you guys in less than 20 minutes. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Prepare for glory, anticipate pain, but always remain faithful. We out.